have something bad happen to you during the day. You try to get it out of your head by the time you get home. You just can't do it. You walk through the door. Your kid or your wife asks you what's wrong. You're like, nothing, I'm fine. So my wife just said like, hey, what if you just did this? And we do that as a protective mechanism for ourselves, but we also do that to protect them. It's our responsibility to communicate to the people we care about most, like, hey, I'm just having a bad moment right now. It has nothing to do with you. It actually has to do with these one or two things. Here is how I'm dealing with it. I need a few minutes just to deal with it, and then I'll be fine after that. What you're doing in that moment is So I'm going to share a situation with you guys that in my mind, this is a fumble, but we can turn it into a first down. What I'm going to share today, it's not groundbreaking and it's not anything that is like super special or really, really covert or something that rumbles. Well, I guess it actually kind of does rumble under the surface a little bit. The thing is we're not really cognizant of this. We don't really notice this. And I've been a dad now for 19 years. I always knew that this was kind of an issue, believe it or not, but I really didn't know how to ever solve it. So let me explain. And by the way, I have interacted with so many different men, doing this work over a decade now, that a lot of guys struggle with this one thing that can be completely and totally avoided. And we can actually not only create more peace in our house, but we can also give something to the people that care about us the most. Give them this gift of, it's not you, it's me. And you're probably wondering, like, what are you even talking about? I want to share a story with you guys or a situation. So this happens to me a lot. And this happens, I think, to a lot of men that I talk to. And that is, let's just say you have a bad day, a bad moment, bad situation. Maybe you just wake up in a bad headspace for some reason or another. It really just doesn't matter. But you're kind of in an off mood. You could be completely pissed off because you had a really bad day at work. Maybe you had an argument with your boss. Maybe a customer like left your business. Maybe one of your employees quit. At the same time, we deal with things. Men deal with 10,000 different things like per day. We deal with so many different things, so many different challenges that come across, our desk or into our world, and we just sort of absorb them. And what happens to us, like when we have a bad day, bad moment, bad situation, we more or less go inward. And what that really looks like is we might be pissed, we might be sad, we might be something, but the way it looks to the rest of the world is we're isolated, we're internalizing, and we're angry. And when people ask us if there's anything wrong, we just give them a reply of, I'm fine, just a bad day. I'm fine. I'm good. Don't worry about it. What kind of message does that send to people that we care about? Now, in our world, what I'm thinking is, I will be okay. I'm not okay right now, but I don't want to talk about it. And the other thing too that's going on for me is not only do I not want to talk about it, but I don't want you to see me suffering. I don't want my wife to see me suffer. I don't want my kids to see me suffer. In fact, there's a part of me as a man that if I'm having a bad day and my kids can see it written on my face and they're like, hey man, you doing okay? Is everything okay? And I'm just like, I'm fine. Right. And that's me basically being ashamed of whatever it is that I'm feeling, and I don't want other people to see it. And the way that I relate to my kids and my wife is I sort of just brush them off. If you guys can relate, like, I'm fine, I'm good, don't worry about it, I'll be all right. My wife and I had a very interesting conversation about this of like, well, what is this type of behavior saying to the people you care about most? Now, in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking like, it's not that big of a deal. I don't really want to talk about it. I don't want you to see me upset. I don't want you to see me angry. I don't want you to see me sad. I'm kind of, there's a part of me that's like, I'm kind of ashamed of it. I don't want you to see it. And that's what's going on for me. So like what I do is I have a tendency, and a lot of dudes do this, to just simply kind of push people away and just internalize whatever it is that I'm feeling. And that's really, really dangerous. And the conversation my wife and I had was like, when you do that, a lot of the times we think it's us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it usually hardly ever is you guys. It's something else. She's like, well, what would it look like if you communicated that? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, oh, if we ask you what's, we're like, she's like, Larry, we're not morons. We're not idiots in this house. Like, we can all tell when not only you, but somebody is having a bad day in this house. Like we can tell when one person is off. And when we ask that person what's going on and they brush us off and they say, I'm fine, don't worry about it, or I'm good, just a bad day, like a lot of people start to think, well, maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I did something to upset dad, or maybe I didn't do something or whatever, but we start to wonder like, well, what did I do? And then not only that, she's like, we also get on like, sort of like we're walking on eggshells type of thing. Like we don't want to do anything to provoke you. We don't want to do anything to make you more mad, or we just feel like we need to be careful around you because we don't know what's going on. She's like, what would it look like if you just shared like, hey, sorry, I just had a really bad day today. I had a podcast guest not show up. I had this person do this. I had this person do that. Whatever it is, maybe just share with us like what's going on so we know it's not us. So I'm like, okay, I was like, man, that sounds insanely simple. And like, why didn't I ever even think of this before? So really what that looks like is if I have a bad day, and this is my default, and I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm speaking to you guys and you're like, holy crap, dude, this is me to a T as well. You have something bad happen to you during the day. You internalize it. It makes you a little fiery. You try to get it out of your head by the time you get home. You just can't do it. You walk through the door. You kind of are carrying this energy like you're pissed off at the world, or you're just pissed, or you're down, or you're upset, or angry, or whatever. Your kid or your wife asks you what's wrong. You're like, nothing, I'm fine, right? And what that really says to the other person is, I'm pissed, but you probably have no idea. And I'm thinking you are probably thinking it's you, right? And to not let that person off the hook is just like downright cruel. So my wife just said like, hey, what if you just did this? If somebody asks you in this family, including me, what's wrong? What would it look like if you were like, I just had a bad day today. A couple things happened. It has nothing to do with you guys whatsoever, and I'll be fine. Maybe just give me 20, 30 minutes. Like I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go in my office, or I'm going to go do something, or whatever. Just give me like 20 minutes to just get my head right. I'll be back and I'll be fine. She's like, you have no idea how much of a gift that would be for us. So I've implemented that. And I got to tell you, I feel like the biggest dumbass on the planet, because I could have been doing this for like the past 19 years of being a dad. Like I've given my kids almost 2 decades, my older ones anyway, of like worry of like, that I had a bad day that had nothing to do with them, that they thought that they did something wrong. And my wife, same thing. It's like, sometimes I wonder if it's me. Like I wonder, after being with me for 22 years of marriage, like how many times that woman felt like she was walking on eggshells, like she did something wrong. And all the while, it's just something that happened to me during the day. I share that with you because it's a beautiful gift. It's a fumble that we do this as men, and a lot of us do this. In fact, I would dare to say most of us do this. And when I say do this, you have a bad day, a bad moment, somebody in your family asks you about it, you immediately kind of just brush them off and say, I'm fine, don't worry about it. And we do that as a protective mechanism for ourselves, but we also do that to protect them. We don't want to bitch. We don't want to complain. We don't want to be negative. Probably there's a little bit of that too. But what we have to do, it's our responsibility to communicate to the people we care about most, like, hey, I'm just having a bad moment right now. It has nothing to do with you. It actually has to do with these 1 or 2 things. Here is how I'm dealing with it. I need a few minutes just to deal with it, and then I'll be fine after that. What you're doing in that moment is you're, number one, acknowledging that you're not okay, that you had a bad day. And guess what? That's teaching a lesson to our young men that we're raising, and daughters too, but mostly young men who are raising, because men just internalize things, that you know what, we have a responsibility that I can communicate to you that maybe I didn't have the greatest day, or I had a challenge or whatever. And that's really okay. I can communicate that stuff. In fact, it's higher emotional IQ if I do communicate that stuff. And then if I tell you, hey, it has nothing to do with you, what I'm doing is I'm giving you that gift of like, hey, I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at something else, right? And then when we tell them, I need to do this right now, maybe I need 10, 15 minutes. After that, I should be good. I'm going to come back and we'll talk. What you're also doing is you're giving this person a window of time of how long it's going to take you to probably deal with this, and how you're going to come back and be kind of quote unquote normal again. And believe it or not, people who live with us, holy crap, do they love that. They love that. Here is my fumble, but we can turn this into a first down. So we might have fumbled the ball over and over again, behaving this way. We can recover the ball and run for a first down. And how we do that is own whatever it is that you're feeling. Just say whatever it is. I'm angry at this because of this. This happened. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is letting people that you love off the hook that they didn't do anything wrong. It actually has nothing to do with you. It might feel like that I'm angry with you. I'm not at all. I'm just in my head. I'm just kind of dealing with this. I'm processing through this. I love you. It has nothing to do with you. In fact, once I'm done dealing with this, which I probably need about maybe 20, 30 minutes just to get my head right, just to kind of think through some things, I'll be good. We can come back. We can chat. We can do whatever or whatever. But you're giving that person the gift of when you're going to come back and how long it's going to take you to deal with this. So I've implemented this myself. Again, slow learner. Should have been doing this for the past 2 decades. Haven't. But my hope is through you guys listening to this episode today is like you take something from it and you're like, I'm not going to do what that dumbass Larry did for 20 years. I'm going to do this right and only waste maybe a couple of years of my kid's life and giving them agony and worry that they did something wrong when they actually didn't. Hopefully today's podcast was helpful for you guys. Really appreciate you guys listening. Really appreciate all you're doing out there, all the support and sharing the show. Also, a couple quick announcements as we wrap up today. Go check out themensforge.com. Man, do we have some really cool stuff going on there. The Men's Forge is a conference that me, Ryan Mickler of Order of Man, Matt Bordeaux of Apogee Strong, Connor Beaton of Man Talks, and Matthew Vincent of Not Dead Yet. We are combining our 5 communities, and we are hosting an event called the Men's Forge May 1st through the 4th, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. All you have to do is buy a ticket. We got you covered after that. We've got all your food taken care of. We have your sleeping arrangements taken care of. We have all your activities taken care of. You're going to leave with some really cool stuff, and not to mention the fact that we have 2 of the most kick-ass speakers on the planet. Dr. Robert Glover, the best-selling author of No More Mr. Nice Guy, is going to be speaking, and he's going to be hanging out with us. And Hollywood actor Sean Patrick Flannery, and also master of jiu-jitsu, 4th degree black belt. He's going to be not only speaking, but he's going to be teaching us a little something with some jiu-jitsu training. So I can't wait for that. It's going to be awesome. So if you're a big fan of Sean Patrick Flannery, if you like the Boondock Saints and Powder and Indiana Jones Chronicles and his latest film, which by far was probably the best acting I've ever seen, Nefarious, it's unreal. So go check that out. Also, if you guys have been curious about the Dad Edge Alliance or Mastermind, we are just thriving in those 2 communities. If you're a business owner, the Dad Edge Boardroom is for you. If you're a 9-to-5er, the Alliance is for you. Head on over to thedadedge.com/mastermind if you want to learn all the skills that we teach in 5 areas of our life, and that is leadership, marriage, parenting, financial health, physical, mental, emotional health as well. Those 5 areas we're always teaching men how to connect better in their marriages, how to be more calm and patient with their kids and connect with their kids, how we can be the healthiest version of ourselves, both mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Also with leadership and having the financial skills as well, because finances play a big part in what we do and how we live life. So gents, head on over to thedadedge.com/Friday198 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday198 for this show. I'll have all the links in there for you. Also, a little bonus in there for you. If you want a free resource, if you want to test the waters with intimacy and connection with your wives, I'll have a link in there for 25 intimate conversation starters for you guys as well. So, gentlemen, appreciate you. Love you. Talk to you soon.